いつか一緒に人間の世界に行って一緒にお菓子食べよう。
あっちで幸せになろうね。
Seriously, Shoma, he didn't even try to avoid those death flags. Continuing right from where we left off last week, the brothers had arrived in the world of the Grand Newts, where both were ready to get down to business, though with very different goals. In Shoma's case, he did try to rush separating the worlds completely. However, and while still clearly manipulating him, Naivo was correct to point out that they couldn't just rush things, and he actually did have a solid plan. He gave his little brother a gun, specifically the Big Magnum, which he had managed to modify to work on Grand Newts. It could only work on them for a few minutes, but that would be more than enough time to commit an assassination or two. And he would even try to play his part by isolating Bocca as much as possible, allowing Shoma to do the job. So yeah, it all seemed good, which actually made it feel even more like things were gonna fall apart by the end. Meanwhile, the other heroes had learned about Shoma's departure through a message that he had left. I'm guessing they also didn't find those two huge cards of human presses. Like, okay, maybe Shoma released them off screen somewhere, but that's still a lot of shocked people to be released, so yeah, that's a bit of a nasty plot hole there, but whatever. The message was mostly addressed to Sachika, which fair enough, as she has been the MVP of the show, though he did also kind of leave Lakia and Hanto hanging.
残したごちそうはハントとラキアに渡してください。
Oh, come on, dude. You just left behind the ones that you got double sub. But yeah, the trio of course decided to track down Shoma, who they figured had gone to the Grand Newt realm, which they would need to find a portal to. Back with Shoma, he got ready for their little operation by getting changed in, tragically enough, his and his mother's old room, which I guess they never bothered to clean up ever since his escape. Also, while Mitru called it gross, I'm actually kind of curious of what food from a culture that only eats rocks would taste like. Like, did they actually try to recreate human food in some way? Maybe that stuff is actual stone soup, who knows? Anyway, it led to a pretty powerful scene where Shoma spoke to the spirit of his mother to assure that he had been living a good life on the planet that she wanted to take him to. However, those days were seemingly over with him committing to this operation, so he was actually kind of going against his mother's wishes, which were to live a happy life, and you could even kind of see the confliction in his face as he realized this. This is actually a pretty important point about Kamen Riders that we'll talk a little bit more at the end, so just remember it. Meanwhile, we got a little bit with Naivo, where, not too surprisingly, he was still being hella shady, as while they were going to discontinue the Dark Treats production, he was still holding on to a huge stock of them, likely to help bribe some votes for Shoma later. That said, we did get some interesting backstory where it turned out that he was treated like the runt of the siblings by way of his mother apparently being weak. Which yeah, considering how different each of them looked, I think it's safe to assume that Daddy had at least 4 wives. If Longo didn't get him, I'm gonna bet one of his exes would have done the job. That said, it didn't seem like the dad had mistreated him, at least not as much as the granddad who really started all of this. Yeah, Zom was likely the guy who instilled the idea that the strong, quite literally, eat the weak amongst his grandchildren. Thus, it was actually rather admirable that Naivo was trying to prove him wrong by working smarter and not harder by manipulating the systems. It still didn't make him a good person, as he still participated in his family's business, but it is at least making him a much more interesting character as the sibling who got the least amount of focus until his final arc. Back with Shoma, we found out that he was changing into his brother's outfit in order to get close to Bocca. It wasn't exactly a perfect disguise, but it would work on a politician who sees humans as low-grade cattle. I mean, let's face it, Bocca would totally be the type who would say something like this.
Sorry, man. Oh, y'all look alike.
Back with our heroes, they were trying to find portals, and MVP Sachika managed to successfully find a group of part-timers heading home, but before she could call in the boys, Longo decided to have a word with the guy from the clip show episode. And after disposing of him and his hodgepodge of costumes, Longo spotted Sachika, resulting in her taking up arms.
Gavv no? Omae ga?
Okay, I think I like that delivery more than I really should have. as a result of that and another low-key diss, we got easily one of the most awesomely hilarious bits of this whole show, with Sachika trying to flex to the unamused Longo over who ran the better business, which, to be fair, considering her company was still going strong, while Longo's was bought out by the feds. Yeah, objectively, she was doing much better. However, seeing her guts, as well as the other riders, gave Longo the idea to just let them go to the Grand Nude World and fight amongst themselves. From there, and no matter who, he could probably pick up the scraps and start regaining his company. Back with Shoma, he went to the very White House to see Bocca, and he actually managed to hit him with the Magnum, but as it turned out, Bocca had somehow already implemented some sort of countermeasures into himself to give him immunity to it. Left with no other choice, Shoma just had to do things the old-fashioned way. Okay, I actually picked out that Rush Hour 2 clip before I saw this part of the episode. I didn't think he'd actually say it though. This led to, honestly, probably my favorite fight of this whole series so far, that I'm not even sure is going to be topped by the end, as Shoma fought Bocca and his Secret Service army. The latter were just a bunch of scrubs to his Overmaster form, but they pulled off some really awesome sequences, including them throwing a ton of knives at him, which, yeah, you can guess what's going to go here.
0
I guess I could have also used Sakuya, but I don't actually play that much Toho. But yeah, Shoma just wailing on these guys was awesome, in spite of the obvious reliance on chroma keying. However, that was only half of it, as Bocca soon joined in with his very expensive shoes, and the tides quickly turned. As not only did the guy seem to have some sort of telepathy, but he was also able to just effortlessly wail on Shoma, to the point they could even take a break on his weapon. The dude doesn't really need to aura farm, and yet he still does it in the middle of a fight. Meanwhile, Hanto and Lakia finally arrived.
いいよな。グラニュートの姿に戻れば目立たなくて。
Considering that he's walking around naked, it's not all that great. But yeah, they managed to save Shoma just in the nick of time and made a strategic retreat. Now, you see guys, the biggest mistake y'all made was not taking MVP Sachika with you.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Nah, even though that's what should have happened, we did get a very powerful scene of Shoma realizing that he shouldn't throw away his life and happiness away so easily. While yes, it is the duty of the Kamen Riders to be heroes who sacrifice their own happiness to preserve the smiles of others, if those other smiles are correlated with their own, then is it really worth sacrificing? It's a moral question that doesn't necessarily have a right or wrong answer, but the writer needs to make the final choice, which Shoma realized his answers resided elsewhere. With that, the episode ended with the team reunited, and Naivo making the biggest oh crap face ever when seeing Bocca still alive and kicking. Yeah, okay, I actually kind of feel bad for him here. This was an excellent episode that both advanced the plot and also really got across the threat of Bocca. The dude not only proved to be smart by already taking countermeasures to Naivo's potential betrayal, but he also showed they could survive almost any assassination attempt with just his badassery. It raised his already high threat level and also made for some good drama as Shoma realized what he really needs to protect. While we've only got to see little bits of Bocca through himself and his genes and his daughter, it was crystal clear that the guy was final boss level strong. And yet here, not only did he show probably only a little more, he did with style. I don't know, I just really like it when villains are able to just casually stroll around as the hero tries every tactic in the book to defeat them and yet still comes up short. It makes us anticipate the final battle and wonder how the heroes are going to stop the living embodiment of tyranny. It also helped that the first half of the fight was just an over-the-top masterpiece of JoJo logic and physics. That aside, the characters were also really well done this week. Surprisingly, the best showings actually might have come from Naivo and Sachika. With the former, we got some much-needed backstory that finally gave us a reason to care about this guy. Not to mention, his reaction to Bocca was amazing, and that was both kind of funny, and yet you do actually kind of feel bad that his well-thought-out plan just didn't work out. Though of course, Sachika remained the MVP by standing up to Longo in her own unique way. Altogether, it made for overall a very strong episode that very effectively advanced the plot and raised the stakes. Give the Granute voters this. They know how to pick strong and really healthy leaders, unlike us.
Thanks for watching, and if you're not in trouble with your government, well, then you should be able to watch our videos, no problem, right?
We've got something new coming out almost every day, and hopefully some bigger projects coming out later this month.
Look forward to whatever comes next. Until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and if I can go a little off script, yeah, chocolate-covered gummies aren't all that good. I mean, I just bought this for the video, and I think I need to get my money back. Ugh.